We are going to react to Jeenine's video, his opinion, which changes supposed to be included to the game to make it just simply better. The video is called Top 3 Most Important Balance Changes Elden Ring PvP Needs. I, Aizen, and Dragon are going to watch it and add our opinion to it.
Let's start with the very beginning. The most important change that Elden Ring needs right now is a reduction of roll distance for light roll and Bloodhound Step.
My boy. That's
I
my
think
dude.
pretty much everybody will agree with that. It's pretty clear that even players that have no idea what they're doing, whether they're light rolling and casting or light rolling with just anything, that they get away from every option in 2 rolls, they're gone. Period. And you can't catch them, and it sucks. So I think everybody agrees light rolls are bad. So I agree.
The most obvious factoid that demonstrates this is that you are faster than running speeds if you're light rolling. So you can't even catch up to people who are just spamming B. It's completely insane.
This is so incredibly ridiculous that I see constantly the same argument. Oh, when you have light load, you're supposed to be faster. Then be faster, run faster, not roll faster, not roll further. Like, come on. Like, I don't know, like a different changes like freaking stamina regeneration and so on right now because of the removal of the stamina regen on the wave dash. You technically could utilize the better stamina regen.
Yeah, so eventually you would catch up just because you're not consuming stamina. That's not even the case anymore. I'm not sure if BHS is really that big of a problem because in this game you have really good running attacks.
Wait, because like he started mentioning something about BHS too, yeah?
Well, he said he talked about the distance of BHS. That's
okay. Okay, let's see.
Of roll distance for light roll and Bloodhound Step Ash of
There you
War.
go.
Okay.
So right now this is the medium roll distance. You know, pretty standard. If we take off the armor, this is the light roll distance, which is much.
Yeah, and you're gone.
It never gets old.
Travel distance. Now we don't want the light roll distance to be the exact same as medium roll. But here's the thing though, there is the same type of issue with Bloodhound Step. So this is the travel length of Bloodhound Step, which is very large as well. The first Bloodhound Step goes pretty far, and then if you spam it, the consecutive ones are shorter. So I think the Bloodhound Step, the first one is still a bit too far. Light rolls still too far as well. But if we take a look at Bloodhound Step, the consecutive one, that's a good distance. If light roll and Bloodhound Step could have that distance instead of the full one, I think we would be in a good place.
I feel like anything that changes up what is already difficult roll catching or things like that is not very good for a read scene, because that's how I'm coming in the game. And I honestly just think people have enough crutches in this game already. The ability to erase whatever approach you might have is already a horrific thing, and we could just get rid of that. I mean, there's enough crutches, in my opinion.
It's not just the light roll. It changes the distance, but it also changes the frame data on it. So if you have light load, then you can spam it and you never get the degradation, right? So normally what happens if you're just spamming continuously quick step backwards, for instance, you have 15 on the first one, but then as you start spamming it, you only have 13 iframes.
Right.
That effect doesn't kick into the same extent with light load quick step, so you still keep 14 iframes. And you know, for instance, on medium roll, it eventually turns into 10 recovery frames when it was 8 initially between quick steps. But on light load, it just stays 8. So not only does the distance get improved, but also the frame data gets improved. And if you roll instead of quick stepping, that's also better. Like, it's just ridiculous, you know. Both quick step becomes better. I think BHS gains distance, and
when I told people
all of the dodges, everything becomes better.
When I told people in 20 different videos on the patch 1.06 that light roll is a problem, like, I had such an amount of people that just didn't believe.
Oh yeah, I mean, even I think everybody's chats have had the same problem. I mean, I haven't put out the same videos, but you know, I'll say something like, I don't like light step, I don't like any of that stuff, and people go, "Well, the trade-off is I don't have as much armor." I'm like, you never get hit, and you're gone. You
Trade-off
don't,
is I am shit at build making. Like that's
I mean, it's also just, why have armor if you never get hit in the first place? It's like that old meme, just don't get hit for ass.
just
Well,
don't
guess
get
what?
hit for head.
Like that is 100% what it is. But unfortunately for light roll, when you're chasing someone down who's light rolling or they're engaging with you in any way, the only way they lose is if they fuck up. They fuck up hard. It doesn't matter what reads or approach you make. They just have to fuck up, and that's a problem.
Like devil's advocate, if this game didn't have iframe duplication, if it wasn't harder to roll catch people on high latency, then maybe
let's explain the iframes duplication. So there is a particular threshold that enables itself at like around 180 ms onwards, if I am not mistaken, that you literally just overlap the iframes.
Yes.
No, it has to be higher. I'm pretty sure it needs to be like 250 to actually get full.
I'm saying like it's getting like very noticeable. That's my point. That like, when you're, for example, facing, so if you're in the Central Europe, like, or Eastern Europe, and you're facing someone from NA West, which is around that 180 plus ms of the ping of the average, then you can use the double rolls as a strategy to get out of the vortexes and so on.
Sure.
Because you're going to overlap a lot of the rolls. You're gonna get like effectively you're gonna have more iframes. But yeah,
netcode shit, light rolls bad. I think we all know that's a problem, and I don't. The people who are going to disagree with that aren't even going to be in the arena in the month, so it doesn't matter. I literally don't care.
This is actually quite funny. Yeah, like a lot of the shit takes comes from people that gonna just go onwards to the another Skyrims.
They're not even worth talking to because they're going to be fucking gone. So
look at it, elitist.
Yeah, let it have. I'm doing this 12 years. I know what it's going to look like.
If you have an opinion that I don't agree with, are you even human?
Hey, I'm telling you, as a main Dark Souls 2 main, that's my mentality, and that's just the way it's going to be. Period. Like I know what this is all going to look like. This is all just a big fucking cycle. They don't matter. What matters is who's going to be around, and the people who are going to be around are the people who know that light rolls are shit, and they are crutching you super fucking hard. Period. That's just at the end of the day. I think anybody that actually plays these games will understand that. If anybody disagrees with that, then go spend some more time in the arena and come back to me with the same answer.
For real.
Go ahead.
So this distance right here is what it should be. It's still a good distance, don't get me wrong, but I think that would be enough to make it so that people can't mash circle out of everything like a monkey, because you guys don't want to mash circle like a monkey to avoid attacks. Like, you want to actually time your attack. You don't want this game to reward mashing like a monkey, do you? I think everyone wants the game to be...
No, they didn't be Bloodborne.
Every single Bloodborne gamer malding like crazy as we speak.
Let them. They're not in the arena either.
Like that's the point, but it's also not related that much to the role per se. It is more like related to the latency, yeah. Because even on the mid roll, you can still spam the roll consecutively and avoid the attacks if the latency is high enough. So, but that being said, what is the difference between light roll, mashing on the light roll, and mashing on the mid roll? Is that on the mid roll, you are not going far away enough to avoid the phantom hits. And on the light roll, you do. That means that like phantom hits with the status effects like a madness, like sleep, are essentially a counterplay to lag to some extent. You can utilize.
It's so good. It's a counterplay of its own fucking netcode. I'm so tired of this.
This is actually quite funny, but this is actually a thing. Yeah, if you fight the laggy player, then in most of the cases you want to swap to the status effects.
Right. I mean, yeah.
It's stupid, but it is how it works in this game. And to be honest, it's still like the best anti-latency system that we ever had in the Souls games. Because like
it needs to fucking go. We don't want to deal with it.
Okay, but assuming low latency, if somebody just keeps spamming rolls away from you, then you can just like if you're playing Halberd, then you eventually just run up to them, you just do a running R1, it becomes very, very easy to roll catch them. Since they're, if they're just spamming it, they kind of give you the timing, and it becomes super easy to roll catch them. with any running attack or with any jump attack, you can just sync up your attack to their continuous roll spam timing. If they're light rolling, then they roll away so far that even if you're running, you can't actually catch up to them. They just move away.
Yeah,
they
it's bad.
become safe just based on distance. It is
But yeah,
absurd.
but I
even
I
on
think we
good
covered.
latency.
Yeah,
think
light roll is ridiculous in every aspect.
I think we covered light rolls being bad. We can. I mean, we all,
Okay,
we all know.
let's hope G is gonna go off the topic quickly too.
You know, I see a lot of not experienced players and players in generally that are not very good, not very experienced, that don't really know what they're talking about, quite frankly, that are against this, people that light roll and that crutch on it. But if we're being objective
See?
here,
Boom.
it's definitely not healthy for the game to have a roll distance that's so large and that can pretty much avoid anything like without any drawback.
Before anybody calls me a fucking
Honestly, like,
asshole,
honestly,
there you go.
know, forget the noise. The second thing that I think should be addressed is, of course,
Power stance
power
damage.
stance damage.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
here
well,
we're talking about all power stance setup. Here I'm showing straight sword. You know how crazy the straight sword damage can get.
you
You know,
guys
that's
like.
another one. That damage is also ridiculous.
Oh hey,
Okay.
hey! Look at that.
You know, that right here.
Wish I had
another
used
one.
those.
That's usually either a one shot or a two shot for this. It's just like across the board, really. I've actually seen, you know, I don't have the build for each of these setups, but I've seen on the right build, like katanas like that, they can absolutely two shot, like actual two shot with just two.
I don't think this is factual against optimized builds, no?
Yeah, like if you're buffed with exalted flash and your opponent has a shit build, then maybe you can two-shot. Like, okay, so like regarding power stance damage, really, it's not every power stance attack that is a problem here. It's mostly those that are just attacking with both weapons simultaneously. Like power stance straight swords L1 is a classic example. And most of the jump attacks also just hit
But
simultaneously.
Ace, then they have difference of 1 frame.
As
Yeah,
if that
I-
mattered.
I have to
I mean, it's
agree with-
basically attacking at the same. What I mean is,
Yeah.
if there's a big difference, like for instance, power stance halberd running L1,
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
swinging both at different times, or like katana L1, that's also two
Yep.
separate swings. That sort of stuff is justified in having motion values that are like close to 100 plus 100. And for those who are not familiar with what motion value means, it's just like a multiplier relative to like a one-handed R1. So one-handed R1 is typically 100, which means that you do as much damage as just a one-handed light attack. And a lot of the motion values in this game,
That is calculated of AR.
yeah, it's multiplying the weapon AR to get the raw damage outputs of the weapon. And a lot of the jump attacks in this game are pretty crazy. So for example, power stance katanas have 130 plus 100. So when you hit somebody with a jump, it's like, you know, it's 130% of one R1 with one sword, and then another R1 on top of that. And then you have Claw Talisman that boosts that
Yep.
by 15% more. Like this
Yep.
is like these motion values are really the culprit here. It's just that the multipliers are ridiculously high. And in some cases you have to ask yourself, what's the reasonable trade-off between one-handing, two-handing, and power stancing? Because, you know, if I can use power stance straight swords, and on the first L1 I have motion values of 92 plus 92. That's almost like hitting with both swords simultaneously. Why would I one-hand? Why would I two-hand? What's even the point? It's just obsoleting so much game content by making the power stances so unreasonably beneficial. But
I agree with that.
it's not all power stances though, right? It's specifically those attacks that hit with both weapons at the same time.
Correct.
And
I found the
they-
same.
yeah.
I found the same with this, like with the scythes. The scythes do the same running halberd attack, and
Yeah.
they're whatever. But then you find yourself just doing the crouch attack because they both swing down at the same time. You just end up doing that constantly. All jump attacks are pretty much at the same time. It's all simultaneous swinging. I 100% agree with that. Just, I mean, toning down the damage would help, obviously, but you know, we've got a lot of those things. I don't think they're going to change those animations, but so we're going to have to really knock down those multipliers.
There was actually a quite interesting solution in Dark Souls 2. The offhand weapon has 10 or even more % of less damage overall. You
Right.
had like a debuff on your offhand
Right.
weapon.
That was true. That is true.
Yeah, so like they could go with basically their old idea from Dark Souls 2 times.
Yeah, but that's B team. We don't want to listen to that. So
Yeah,
that'll never
they are
happen.
inferior because they do not have
Can't do that.
Miyazaki-san.
Yeah.
For real.
The only game that released with Arena at base. But whatever. Hey, let's we can go. Let's move it on.
Jumping at that. Spears are also a big part of the problem as far as damage is concerned. I see a lot of people complaining about the speed in general.
No, the speed is fine because like the even like frame wise, this L1 attack connects on the 15 frame, so you have like a 500 milliseconds to fucking react to the thingy. The problem is that this animation is very not obvious. It's very like covered. It's ending up in the situation that like you pretty much just cannot sometimes react to things because you don't see the startup.
And if they're goblin stuff, and God help you.
Well, like you're saying that the speed is fine, but the speed is also very weird. Like you have on the one-handed R1 on a spear, you have 18 frame startup.
I know, like okay, one-handed completely needs to be
on the
sped
power
up, yeah?
stance. Yeah, on the power stance attack, you have 14 frames. It's 4 frames faster.
Yeah.
It is ridiculously faster, even though you're using 2 spears at the same time.
Yeah, but like,
and it has pretty much double the damage.
I think we can all agree
Explain
that
atheists.
Yeah, okay, so I can explain it in the way that like From Software do, and they were like, oh, we brought back duals to the game, so therefore we are going to, make them strong so people use them for real, and we are not going to look even back on the regular movesets. It's actually true, like, for example, like, there is literally no reason to use one-handed spear besides its crouch attack as a mix-up to the dual moveset anyway. So yeah, it's fucking stupid. Like the power stance. Yeah, on its own.
Like the motion values as well. Like it's what is it on spears? 95 plus 95. So it's very close to just hitting with both spears, like on a regular one simultaneously. It's it's so absurdly high. Why is it so good compared to one-handed and two-handed? Like why? Okay.
Let's go forward.
Was cool.
Yeah, let's go forward before like Eisen gonna get more triggered.
So my suggestion for a damage nerf for all these setups would actually be around 20% damage reduction,
which can be kind of achieved by like putting then 30% debuff on the offhand. Yeah, Eisen.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to make it that asymmetric. Whether that's really beneficial.
I see.
Logically, if you're like in the spear animation, right? The startup of both spears is at the same time. The animation for the left hand and the right hand looks the same. So I don't know what the logic is behind saying that one hand should do more damage than the other.
That would
I think
two
they could
players
just
and it worked
they could
back
just
then.
tweak the motion values.
That's the logic.
Just do 20% less on both hands, whatever.
What is the most logical way to nerf it now when I think about it?
To me, the most logical way to nerf it is to just decrease the motion values of the power stance.
So yeah, so instead you want... Okay, so wouldn't that require them, like developers, to go through the motion values and nerf them on their own? Isn't like wouldn't be that better from the dev's perspective to kind of apply some sort of the multiplier?
Okay, but you don't really want some of the power stance attacks are fine, like power stance katana attacks that have 2 separate swings. You don't really want to nerf that. So in this case, the way that I see it, it does require fine-tuning of individual attacks. You're not going to achieve good balancing by just going randomly through stuff. But it's comparably simple, because what you could do is you can just classify every power stance attack as either swinging simultaneously or separate swings, and then just apply a global modifier to all of the attacks that are hitting simultaneously. It's not like you have to actually fine-tune the numbers of every single motion value. You can just classify them.
So without like going into like further details, what you suggest is that not every power stance is like overtuned, and therefore not every of them supposed to be nerfed. You're supposed to just cherry pick the ones that are actually problematic. So it might be probably the dual spears, dual G spears, dual straight swords, I guess. I assume would be
Yeah.
in the category
I
too.
think that's the easiest nerf because the thing that you said earlier, Steel, it fixes the problem partially, but it causes another one because
Yeah, the off
if you-
meta is even worse. That's
Exactly,
actually yeah.
exactly.
That's the point. I didn't think of it. I was thinking more like of accessibility of the to the nerf because what they introduced in patch 1.06, I think it was. It's like the or 1.07 are those like PvP multipliers, yeah. And that's why I am so focused on using the multipliers because I assume this is how they want to mostly balance the PvP side of the game. But I guess like
I would
giving
do
them
the opposite if I was from software. Actually, I would literally invest not just in damage improvement for offhands, but even like adaptability. Because if you think about it, Dark Souls 2, we had attacks coming off of the offhand that was chaining combos with the main hand. But here, like it's like an idle attack. You know what I mean? In Elden Ring. So that really it's such a downgrade if you think about it compared to Dark Souls 2. You would have so many more cool setups and cool combos that you could make if the offhand in Elden Ring worked the same as in Dark Souls 2.
yeah,
I
like
agree with that. We all want a running attack back on an offhand. We all want fucking.
I mean, people already do
yeah.
that, but with crouch and power stance, so it wouldn't change anything. It would just add more
Yeah.
stuff to the game.
It
hmm.
would. Variety
it's-
is the
it's not
spice
a-
of life.
Yep.
It's not a PvP specific problem anyways, though, because the question of why would I ever play one-handed straight swords in PvE compared to power stance straight swords, it exists just as it does in PvP. It's,
Oh, sure.
It's the
I mean,
same
that's-
issue.
That's why they're all running it anyway. I mean, they're not just sitting there thinking about the invader. They're running it because it kills the PvE. It annihilates PvE. I ran at level 15. I ran that dual anchor build, and I swear to God, it was just at level 15. I was breezing through the game with +3 anchors because of the just immense stagger damage and its damage period. And it was a cakewalk. It was an absolute cakewalk because of power stance. Like the anchors are good, but it could have just as easily been lances, or it could have just as easily been spears. It was just eat shit,
Yeah.
and you're dead. And that was it. Stun locking bosses was hilarious.
Rationally speaking, I think the problem in the fundamentals of Elden Ring itself, it's mostly in PvP. Also, the fact that jump attacks are too good. Like if you think
They are
about
too
it,
good, and
they are too
they
good.
have super recovery. They don't get super punished for it. It's, I mean,
Exactly.
Wait,
Both
guys.
in PvP and PvE.
Wait, you don't like when HTS has 7 frames recovery?
yeah, I just really don't.
Wow.
I don't like my major issue with Elden Ring in general, power stance or no, is the recovery for everything everyone does, including their stamina recovery and their frame recovery. They don't get punished for things they should be punished for. I think people can make really risky choices in like it would be risky in another game, and in this one they just do it because it's easy, and they know they're going to get away with it because boom, 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 they roll twice, then they're gone, or they jump attack and they're gone, and it's just over. So I think people need a recovery across the board needs to be higher, just so people are actually punished, or maybe make things to cost more stamina, so people actually have to look at the green bar, but you don't in Elden Ring. So you just stare, I don't like people not being punished for fucking shit movement and shit decisions. I don't like that.
Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So there's a reason we left. I mean, it's the same thing.
I mean, like, I think Dark Souls 3 like went way better over time, but like, yeah, it's
too fucking late for a lot of the community. I mean, shit.
I
mean,
agree
that's-
with Dragon on this one. I really couldn't digest Dark Souls 3 at the early stages. Like it was just
I like
boring.
it now. I didn't like it at the early stages. I like it
I can't
now.
really judge now because I haven't really tried after the DLCs. I didn't even play the DLCs of Dark Souls
Okay,
3.
that's commitment to the hatred.
I
Okay,
didn't play
listen,
I
guys.
didn't play the DLC either.
Because we are like expanding the topic a little bit too much. So
Yeah, right.
the
You're right.
consensus is the nerfs to the motion values rather than any multipliers. To the like particular sets that are problematic. And that's it.
Yeah, to the attack animations that hit with 2 weapons simultaneously rather
Sure.
than 2 separate swings like power stance Talbot L1.
Okay.
I would accept that or damage. I don't think both, but I think one or the other. And I'd be nice if power stance took more stamina. Anything that just takes more stamina, I'm down for that. Period.
Okay.
So, that's my
like
end.
technically, yeah, like it's already takes a lot, but it still could get like a little bit more. I'm talking here about like a spears, because like for example, PSSS, like the straight swords do not have that problem. They do not take much of the stamina.
No.
Okay.
The way I see it, the best fix for something like this overall would just be a recovery nerf.
Okay, so
Like if you put a huge recovery on jump attacks, crouching, and everything that gets abused
so
very
motion
often.
values or recovery to the power stance. Those are basically two ideas that you guys have.
Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
let's go further.
Number 3 on my list, this one is going to be
Number 3.
widely regarded as a good change, I believe. I don't think this one is controversial at all.
We'll
Let me
see.
grab a
Multipliers?
few weapons here real quick. The trifecta of dodge Ash of Wars. You got Bloodhound Step, you got Quick Step, and you got Raptors. The main issue for these Ash of Wars is the recovery cancel after you do any animation.
Right.
I think we pretty much covered that too already, just by talking about how everything is so difficult to punish because of recovery, and obviously the ability to cancel it further is worse.
Yeah, it's example of it. For example, you have like true combos, yeah, that normally are true combos. An example of it might be the crouch poke of the colossal sword into offhand weapon like HTS, or like some sort of the big
Great axe, great
bonker,
hammer.
like something like that, yeah?
Which is funny, but
yeah, these things are not a true combo anymore if your opponent has BHS, Quickstep, or Raptors.
correct.
Because yeah,
Like, to be fair, is that intentional, Tom?
that's actually a good
Sure.
question. Is it intentional?
It is not. Nothing is intentional. Nothing. Let's not. I can't sit here and pretend that these people have ever known what they're doing. It's not intentional. It just exists because there was a guy who was like, I fucking love anime.
Okay,
I
Dragon
want my
Doomer
character to
enabled. I
disappear.
see how it is.
I want my character to disappear and not be hit and then move fucking 20 feet in one direction because it's sick as fuck. That's the reason they made it. They didn't make it going, I wonder if someone in a true combo between the Zweihander and the HTS, which they've never used in their life, would actually connect here. No, we're going to put these 3 arts in to counter that. They've never in their life had that discussion. So I'm not open to pretending that they did. I'm just not. It's just obviously something in the game that continues to crutch people out of problems. 100%.
What you think,
That's my opinion on
Eisen? What is the technical reason why these things even cut the recovery frames?
Like, what do you mean by why they have recovery frames?
They are cutting the recovery frames, yeah?
Well, like, so
They
the
do cut
primary
them.
reason is that every animation in this game has different cancel windows. So there's a cancel window into, like, let's say right-hand attack, left-hand attack, into dodging, into using weapon arts. And particularly notorious is the cancel window into a fast weapon art. So this used to be just a small handful of weapon arts, like Quickstep, for example. But they have expanded this to pretty much everything, or actually every single Ash of War at this point. And so an extreme example of this is the one-handed thrusting sword, R1, which has 0 recovery frames into a fast weapon art. Which means that there's not a single frame that you're spending in the animation after the active frames, after your weapon does damage. There's not a single frame that you're spending between that and between entering invincibility through Quickstep. Okay, to be fair, I think there's 2 frames just because it takes time between animations to
But
transition.
it's gonna get negated by latency, yeah? Because the higher latency...
It's I mean, it is highly technical stuff anyways. But just looking at just the raw cancel windows, it's 0 frames recovery. And not counting like animation transition times and internal shenanigans.
Can you give like practical example?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just told you, one-handed thrusting swords, light attack, has 0 frames recovery into Quickstep, into Bloodhound Step, or into Raptor of the Mists. So you can just basically do an R1, you can just poke and...
But it's
you're
100, 200,
instantly-
or like, you know.
Well, one-handed, it turns into... It's not quite as extreme when you do it two-handed.
Okay, I see.
I've
So
actually,
it's 100.
I've made a lexicon that compiles a bunch of this data. So for example, okay, so two-handed, what is it? Two-handed R1. It takes 5 frames until you can dodge, but only 3 frames until you can do quick step. One-handed, it takes 3 frames until you can dodge, but 0 frames until you can quick step.
Mhm.
If you do a two-handed backstep attack, it takes 6 frames until you can dodge, but only 1 frame until you can quick step. On a heavy thrusting sword, light jumping attack, it takes 6 frames until you can dodge, but only 2 frames until you can quick step. So you're just cutting very deeply into these recoveries using quick step in some of these cases. And it's pretty extreme and makes you quasi unpunishable, especially when a bit of latency gets involved. And this is mostly just because there's this special cancel window into fast Ashes of War, which used to include basically just quick step and Bloodhound step and a small handful of other ashes, but now includes practically everything since 1.07.
Okay.
One possible solution would be to just, use the dodge cancel window for quick step and Bloodhound step specifically, or to make them not fast Ashes of War, which would make a pretty big difference in some cases.
Okay. Well, that was quite an explanation. I guess we can continue Jeenine's video. Gonna see what he's going to say, and then eventually continue the topic.
By going into a dodge Ash of War, and this applies to all the dodge Ash of Wars, whether it's
Yeah,
quick
this is
step, whether it's
just
Bloodhound
plain
step,
brain
whether it
dead,
is
to be
Raptors, because
honest.
Raptors is
I don't
also
know how
part
the
of the problem. Any
developers
Ash of Wars
let
that does
this
that
slide.
prevents the player from ever really taking damage.
Because
So
they don't
that's why
play
it's so
these
important.
games.
And when we say that
Dragon Doomer, let's go.
This isn't fucking Doomer when it's a fact. They don't play them.
it's fine to have like your weapon animation recovery like get cancelled by an Ash of War, like and that is offensive because that you're still in a state where you can get hit. So if you cancel your attack or your dodge with an offensive Ash of War, that's not an issue. So we don't want to change that.
That's actually an interesting point of view. So would that actually make sense to get every single defensive Ash of War out of fast Ash category into like normal one and leave the offensive ones in the fast category like it is in 1.07 right now?
It solves a big part of the problem. It doesn't solve the problem entirely because... Okay, so for example, take Quickstep. Quickstep right now is banned in most of the competitive rule sets.
Yeah, but
It's banned in
okay,
the
let's
basic
drop
rule
the
sets.
idea of competitive completely because like it's irrelevant for like 99.9% of people.
That's true.
Okay, but to me, okay, whether it's banned in competitive or not, it's still a problem that I can spam Quickstep, like backwards or sideways Quickstep, has 6 frames recovery into another Quickstep. Because the animation at the end of Quickstep has 6 frames recovery into just any Ash of War. It's not a fast Ash of War, just any Ash of War. And so this means I have 6 frames recovery between 2 Quicksteps if I'm doing sideways or backwards, but I have 8 frames between rolls. And I mean, like that in itself is already unreasonable. And the big reason for why it is also restricted is just that you're making yourself that much harder to hit while just spamming a button, whether that's the roll button or whether that's the quick step button. I think what FromSoft really needs to do here is to just make quick step, Bloodhound step, etc. Make everything that gives you iframes use the dodge and cancel window. So
Okay.
that there's no such inconsistency, so that there's no such, cutting of recoveries that is making you harder to hit. If the Ash of War is effectively working like a roll and is giving you iframes on the first frame of the animation, it's making you invulnerable and impossible to hit, then it shouldn't be that much better than just a regular roll. Even if Quickstep didn't cut into any recoveries, even if it didn't have, more recovery or less recovery or anything between different Quicksteps, if it just gave you access to a backstep attack, if you do it backwards or sideways, it would still be good. It would still be very, very useful because it gives you access to more parts of your moveset. It would still be well designed, it would still be useful.
Just not
It just wouldn't
latency
mess with,
abusable that
yeah.
much. Let's call it
Yeah,
that way.
it just wouldn't mess with latency abuse and making you harder to hit.
If it
None
was
of this is
used actually
necessary.
defensively instead of being used as the tool of whatever you're doing, it would be better. Should also cost more, in my opinion, but whatever. I just don't like weapon art spam as much as everybody else seems to.
But
I want uses back. I don't like the FP bar. I want uses back.
But this is a simple fix. Simply, yeah, just don't allow the quick step and stuff to cancel part of the
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah, that's
Totally.
basically what
Yeah.
license said,
Yeah.
I guess.
No, I mean we all agree. That would
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
great.
Okay,
That would be awesome.
let's see what she has to
across the
say.
game. It's really only an issue for specifically the dodge Ash of War. So
What I am surprised that he has chosen that one over multiplicative damage. Like, the way how easy it is to stack buffs in the game and so on.
I think
But I when I think about it, I would probably agree that it's bigger of an issue.
I agree with it being a bigger issue. I would also say that he probably is roping a little bit of that into the whole power stance problem. It's just damage across the board is a little high, and we have why not use this? Why not throw on a claw talisman and do your jump attack that makes you half invincible? That type. I think that rolls into it. We also have to acknowledge that Jeenine's video here is speaking to a wide audience of people who are just dipping their toes in the arena anyway. So he's got to keep it pretty simple. And if he starts going into the action, like super technical shit, they'll say, I don't know what any of that means. The stuff that they're going to be saying in your chat over fucking Eisens, because I don't want to hear the Frame data. I'm too casual for that. I just want to get mad, and I'm sure they do too. So it's just that.
I mean, to be fair, what you mentioned, which is the stacking buffs and stacking damage, is more of a PvE problem anyways, and he's talking more from a PvP experience,
Okay.
or PvP perspective. In a duel, you typically don't have the time to stack like 2, 3, 4 buffs, which you absolutely can do before something like a boss fight. And in an invasion, if somebody's stacking 4 or 5 buffs, you typically have the time and the space to just run away and wait it out, and then come back later after the buffs are all gone.
Well, true, but you could also make the argument that they're talking about talisman stacks too. I mean, claw talisman.
Yeah,
steel
that
talisman,
was my
double
point. I
anchors,
don't mean the buffs per
lances.
per se as the
Oh, yeah.
spells.
Yeah,
But I
was
mean, like-
wondering the same.
Like, for
think-
example, anchors, yeah, like that's somewhat related to this video. You have like times 5 buff on the anchors technically if you make your build correctly, because counter damage, so spear talisman, the claw, then
Rapid
on top
chest.
of that you can have the armor set that gives you another 15%.
Yep, raptor's feathers.
Wait, I'm pretty sure it doesn't give you 50%.
I think it's
It's 15, I think.
I think it's
wait.
I think it's 12. I don't think it's actually 15.
Yeah,
Okay.
Raptor's Black Feathers, according to the wiki, says it increases the jump damage by 10%.
Okay, so
They
maybe
still-
it's
they
10.
Okay, so after the latest patch, you have 15% extra damage because people's resistance to pierce damage goes down. Then
Right.
you have the 15% extra from Spear Talisman. And then you have 10% from Raptor's Black Feathers potentially, and that's
Well, they were
ends
saying
up
just
being-
to
And then you add
that is 45.47%.
and then on top
extra.
of that, you add yourself the exalted flesh, or like the
Yeah.
aromatic that gives you 20%, I think, or 15%.
It's 7.5% extra in PvP. So
Yeah, that one I don't
Okay.
know. All I'm saying
Okay,
is
like,
that
so
there
in
was,
PvE
there
it
was
is-
some math done on the chest, and apparently people were saying it was 12 and not 10, even though the wiki says 10. Some people were saying it was 12 because they.
I mean,
they
like,
sat there
you
and
know,
math
like
on
we
Giant.
cannot really trust wiki that much, considering the fact, like, for example, holy proof lever is incorrectly displayed here and so on. Yeah, it's extra life
Right,
after
right,
all.
yeah, we all know. Yeah,
So yeah, like, it might be this another way. So aromatic gives 7.5, yes?
uh-huh.
yeah, in PvP.
No, wait. I'm not talking about the one that gives you shield. I'm talking about the blood one. That decreases your
one I
defenses in
don't.
exchange for damage.
I don't use consumables.
Would you actually use that one?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's guaranteed one shot. Because, like, on top of that, you also give yourself RKR. So you have, like, a 5 times buff, basically. Yeah? claw, talisman, spear, armor, the consumable, and then arcare on one
Yeah.
weapon. You can like even get like a ×6 because you can get yourself first the arcare on the offhand and then main hand, and then you have absolutely guaranteed one shot. Yeah, but like. Yeah, I'm the consumable I was talking about is Blood Boil, like here chat actually brought the name.
Yeah, okay. I'm doing a bit of math in the backgrounds here, and even without going to extremes like this Blood Boil aromatic, I mean, you can get well over 150% extra damage bonus with just a handful of buffs and talismans on a counter hit with Spear Talisman. It is ridiculous. Some of the problems boil down to just not having PvP modifiers for these talismans. I don't really understand why, for instance, there's this one talisman, right? The what is it, like Dragon Great Shield Talisman or something? The one that's just Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman. It reduces the physical damage taken by 20%.
But in PvP only 5.
Yeah, it's 5% in PvP. Why do they make that, which decreases damage, so unreasonably low? But then, let's say Spear Talisman, which increases your damage dealt by 15%, has no PvP modifier whatsoever. It just does 15% extra.
Yeah,
Why
it
do they
seems like all the
buff
defensive
damage
ones are like that.
increases so unreasonably much, but they don't adjust. I mean, but they adjust.
That's actually
the
very
damage decreases so much.
That's very good point. Now when I think about it, I just
Yes, all defensive talismans
yeah.
do not look the same, but the offensive ones absolutely
you
do.
have the
Yeah, Gormless in the chat has a good point.
besides the diminishing returns on its own, you also have like kind of the additional diminishing returns added through the game. Like for example, the more deaths you are stuck in this game, the less efficient they are because the multipliers become worse and worse. It is not happening when it comes to the offensive damage.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like this is quite funny when you think about it. It's that like you have the like legitimate systems that prevents you from stacking defenses. You do not have these when it comes to stacking damage.
It's because I mean, we know the answer to this.
PvE?
Just to get you go, yeah, with sure.
Okay, but it's not even PvE. Like this is about PvP modifiers. Like
Right,
there's
we're just-
massively harsh PvP modifiers for the
No, he's just
talismans.
asking why that's the case, and we know why that's the case, and that's just, but nobody likes talking about it, so we just have to deal with it.
Here comes some more trashing of
that's just- I'm sorry. Well, you know, after 12 years of the same problems, here we are, and we all can sit here and pretend we have a super competitive environment working with a studio that doesn't know we exist. So I don't think any of this is going to change. We can just keep making a lot of noise, but we can do that and continue to do that.
I'm gonna add
to
the
sympathize.
counter on the top of the screen. Dragon
That's
Boomer
fine.
moment.
That's fine. Whatever. We can all live on.
I
our
have
own.
to sympathize a little bit with From Software there though, because they don't deserve all the hate that they're getting. And you know why, DoD?
Tell me why.
Because when we got Dark Souls 2, they asked Tanimura to get in charge of PvP and combat. Of course, the first patch was a disaster. Like before the first DLC, the Sunken King or whatever the fuck it was called, the game was just trash. Like
You mean when they nerfed golf swings instead of the holy water? Yeah, I remember that.
Goldswing was
good.
actually, I think, one of the last patches ever.
I don't
Not the last.
remember.
That one. The
Golf
last
swing,
patch.
but who cared? That stuff was just for
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
money.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They nerfed that before they nerfed the holy water that was doing 360 damage for free.
But
I remember.
Either way, Tanimura had a good idea to like add cancels, you know, feints and all these things that you could do there to like add extra spice, because in the end in PvE you wouldn't use feints on an NPC. Like they don't fall for that shit. It was meant purely for PvP. However, people didn't approach Dark Souls 2 with an open mind, as if it's a new game with a new engine. Like, although I don't think it was a new engine.
I mean,
or
like
was it?
this is like so heavily modified. It is like
Yeah, it felt like it was
Yeah.
a whole new engine, right? But they just tried to play the game as if it was Dark Souls 1. So they just couldn't adapt. They couldn't get out of their comfort zone and just learn new things. And they just hated on it. Just trash talked Tanimura for like trying to bring something good to the
this
PvP
is actually
community.
true. Even today, Dark Souls 2 has a lot of
Exactly.
Yeah, like hatred
So
towards it. Although I think it's mostly towards PvE, which I do agree that I like the Dark Souls 2
Worst in the
PvE the
series.
least.
Yeah,
well,
worst in the
the
series.
DLCs weren't too bad in my opinion, except
Are you
I
kidding
mean
me?
like a basics. Like I actually I do agree that I like the DLCs myself
yeah.
from the like a
You're crazy.
No,
from
I like
the
the DLCs there.
I like bosses. I like, but the basics of the basics. The fact that you have NPCs in Dark Souls 2, like the regular mobs that freaking have shields and they were blocking at some point in their life, and this block frame stays on them despite them doing like a clearly offensive attacks without usage of the shields, but they are still fucking blocking for some reason despite visually it's not being displayed. It's ridiculous. And that's like that's one of the first things that like a new player that plays the game actually like sees. Yeah, they are going to that forest, however it's called, like Forest
Yeah,
of
I
the
remember
Giants,
that.
and like
Those were so annoying.
and like and you just see this fucking junk. So yeah, like
I think
it's-
I died to those a lot actually, and I was like an experienced Dark Souls 1 player. But going back in topic, so of why I sympathize and why I think people now deserve what they're getting in Elden Ring.
oh, you
I think I think it's actually also has to do with the feedback that FromSoft got from the community from what happened with Dark Souls 2. Just that people weren't ready for so much change. So what they did is just like they gave you the same game, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, put it in Elden Ring, add some extra new things, and that's it. People got the game that they wanted, but they can crouch and jump now.
No, I agree. I agree with that statement. I don't agree that they cared about the feedback, but I do I do agree that they just
I
went
don't
with what
know.
worked.
I don't know. I feel like come on, they have to care a little bit. They're okay. They're Japanese. They don't watch YouTube as much as we do and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure they've heard like some feedback from like the PvP
I don't.
community somehow.
It seems like right now the feedback is taken into consideration, and I am aware even of people that actively sending the
They send tickets.
tickets to Bandai Namco. They say, yo, like yeah, I sent the ticket, like informing about this and that, and I'm pretty sure the hotfix is going to happen at Tuesday. The Tuesday comes and the hotfix happens, or Thursday or whatever. And this
Right.
is like, so there are like a people in the community right now that are in the somewhat like a good relation with the Bandai Namco that sends the feedback further and things being worked on legitimately.
But actually,
So,
I
yeah.
have an interesting fact that dates back to Dark Souls 1. Now, in Elden Ring, I don't think there is any Japanese players that are part of the PvP community that you guys are part of, right? However, in Dark Souls 1, on PlayStation, the PvP communities at some point mixed up together. And
That is true.
yeah, and there were some Japanese PvP players who even had like developer friends that were literally working from software, as far as I remember. There was one guy in particular. Unfortunately, I don't remember his name, but he was literally like speaking English like pretty well. For Japanese, they don't usually speak English that often, or like they're just not used to speak English as much as we do because we're more, I don't know, international
Right,
than them.
right.
But yeah, like he was giving like Western feedback to the Japanese community, sort of. And at the same time, if he was giving that Western feedback to the Japanese community, I'm pretty sure the Japanese community was giving that feedback back to the developers because there is some influence, you know.
I don't know if it was that extensive back then. I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I
of course, that's a long
remember
time
that.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and I do remember there was a heavily Eastern and Western scene
yeah.
that mixed up together where they don't now. That was true in Dark
So
Souls 1.
we might not have a direct impact on FromSoft as a Western community, but we might have a little bit of influence to the Japanese community of PvP because they do have their own PvP community. Trust me, like they're crazy for
do.
these games. And then they can, based on the influence that we give to them, they can at the same time give it back to the From Software developers. So I think that's kind of the limbo how it works, but I'm not sure. It's just my theory.
If only they test the patches before they came out, wouldn't that be nice? So there's that. My overall synopsis. I wish recovery wasn't so easy. Damage is high across the board, but power stance is bad. And that's about it. Like at the end of the day, that's my overall. Like all jokes aside, Dragon Doomer, bad man, whatever, only here for the money. 100%. I wish people were more punishable for their stupid mistakes, and I wish that I didn't have to be concerned with every Tom, Dick, and Harry chunking my health for 900 damage.
You want the game to be more skill-based rather than...
I want the game to be more skill-based rather than that. And I know that's going to turn some people off. I know that the community will shrink again. It's going to happen anyway. Why not make a good game?
Yo, you have nothing to lose. Cheaters left. Come on. Just make the good game.
That is literally my... That's it. That's my synopsis. So there you go.
Okay, and I think this is good ending food. Yes?
Unless anyone else has something to say.
Okay.
Doesn't even make for a worse game song, you know, because if you have genuine choice between, let's say, one-handed, two-handed, and power stance weapons, a lot of the game content suddenly becomes useful. You can enjoy PvE with so many more weapon diversity, and all of it kind of makes sense, and you no longer feel like you're just missing out and you're being an idiot by two-handing a straight sword. That's what I want to see, you know. It's not just about PvP, it's also about PvE.
No, fuck
just
that.
wants a game with so many options. They have so many animations. They have so many beautiful game models. They have so many pieces of armor and all of these assets. And then they just make, you know, the power stance spears attack do 10 billion damage and be 4 frames faster. And out of a sudden, you don't need like 50% of the animations in this game anymore.
Being absolutely honest, this is other discussion that I probably guys going to invite you the next time on, is because this is a discussion about transmog most likely, and yeah, like if there is gonna be opportunity, I would like to talk about it, but maybe not today. Maybe today, just let's on the finishing foot with Jeenine's video, to not.
I don't know what he's talking about. Mo is not trans. I'm pretty sure, like, it's just straight boss.
What was G9's first important change? Because I tuned in the stream late, like when we was talking already about the second one.
Length of the light rolls mostly.
Yeah, it was light rolls. Yeah, which
light
everybody
rolls
agrees are bad.
And yeah, length of the BHS when using light rolls and so on. So yeah, overall, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess we're gonna finish it, guys, here. Thank you a lot for tuning in. I am turning off the recording, and yeah, I think like overall G9 kind of based statements here. I think we agree with what
Yeah,
he
I
was
think we
saying.
agree.
I like G9. I like G9. I think he knows what he's talking about.
He is
doesn't talk
reasonable.
out of his ass. Yeah.
He is
Absolutely.
reasonable, that's for sure. Okay, so hey, we out. At least from YouTube.